What's up, guys? So excited. We're going to dive deep into the spoilers for Candyman 2021, and boy, are there a lot of them. So let's go. What's up, guys? Welcome to the spoiler review. Now, if this is your first time checking out and all the spoilers, this is a little bit more laid back than my normal review structure. The funny thing is, when I do non-spoiler reviews, there's always one, I swear to God, there's always one guy who says, he gave away too much. If you go to this, trust me, in this movie, I gave you probably 5% of what's in the actual movie. So don't just assume that I'm going to spoil the movie for you. And if I do give you spoilers, I'm going to give you a nice warning anyway. So going into this, again, this is a spoiler review, okay? If you haven't seen this movie, do not watch this, all right? Please, please leave. Because I swear to God, I've literally had people watch a spoiler review and complain about me giving spoilers. I can't make this shit up, okay? So, get out of here. Make like a tree and get out of here if you haven't seen the movie. Unless you just want to be spoiled, okay? Because we're talking about it all right? It's going to be fun. And by the way, non-spoiler review in a little more than a day made 10,000 views, guys. Thank you so much. And I just passed 45,000 subscribers all at once. Candyman is the gift that keeps on giving. Just tons of candy flying right at Drumdums. I love it. But before we dive deep too, I wanted to foot stomp how beautifully directed this film is. Nia DaCosta quickly jumped up to like my most anticipated director's list as far as what she's going to do next. Yes, I know she's doing a Marvel movie next, like Miss Marvel or something like that. But I hope Marvel doesn't keep her and have her doing 5 projects down the line for them, because she has a gift in terms of filming horror. This movie is just pure horror all the way through. You know, it's not a PG-13 horror movie. She knows how to freak out an audience. There are some scary sequences in this movie. So we'll dive into the violence in this too, because I didn't really talk about too much of that in the non-spoiler review. And yes, I will tell you if Tony Todd was in this movie, okay? That was the #1 comment. Is Tony Todd in this movie? I literally had people DMing me, begging me to tell them if Tony Todd was in the movie. I said, wait for the spoiler review. All right, I don't know why, I'm a dick, but I don't want to tell people. I just want you to wait for the spoiler review. But anyway, at the beginning of this movie, we see this child from like this, I think 77, like the late 70s. He lives in Capri Green. This is a rundown community, kind of a discarded community. And there's this guy called the Candyman by the name of Sherman Fields. And, you know, he gives out candy to the kids. And so when the cops find out that there are razor blades in the candy, they beat the living shit out of Sherman Fields and they kill him. And because of that, you know, it's almost like The Crow. When somebody dies in such a horrible fashion, The Crow will bring them back to life. So this is kind of like they will become the Candyman and they will live on. And anytime somebody says Candyman 5 times, then Candyman's going to kill him. He's going to get you. And by the way, I was watching my friend from Rejected Heroes Media, and he was talking about how, you know, black people love Michael, Freddy, and Jason, but Candyman, of course, they hold him near and dear to their heart because he is like, it's a weird thing to say, an urban legend.
If you're not familiar with it, like, you know, us black kids growing up, Candyman, that was our shit. We had Jason, we had Michael Myers, we had Chucky and all like that. But like for, you know, the black community, you know, us black people, the Candyman, that was our dude. Black guys recognition in this sequel / remake and everything like that, because not a lot of people know about the Candyman story. So let me tell you, this movie is gonna make you be like, so that's Candyman. Sleeping with the nightlight on now.
But he's kind of their hero. Or not hero, but I guess anti-hero. Their horror icon. That's the way to put it. And I get that. And you know what? I've always loved Candyman. I've always thought Candyman is one of the better horror icons. You know, you got your Michael, Freddy, and Jason, but your B tier, Candyman's definitely up there, you know? I would put him next to like Leatherface and Chucky and all those guys. Candyman's awesome. And I believe he's doing a spoiler review on his own. So Rejected Heroes Media, check it out for sure. And just to wedge this in here real quick, I already saw, and it seems like every review I put out, every movie that comes out today, somebody has to make the claim that it's woke. And the term is thrown around way too easily these days. And of course, for a property like Candyman, I just knew it. I knew no matter what this movie does, it's going to be called woke. Even though it's in the inner city and it does deal with events that, guess what, guys, does happen, okay? So we'll dive into that portion of the movie near the end, and I'll talk about wokeness and why this movie's not woke at all, actually. But we'll get to that. So anyway, after this section, we fast forward to the present day, and our main character, Anthony, he becomes obsessed with the legend of the Candyman and Cabrini Green and just that whole world. And why wouldn't he be? Because I think every community has like their own like boogeyman, you know, and Candyman just happens to be that guy. But it's interesting that this movie introduces a different Candyman. And the idea that there's not just one Candyman, there could be plenty of Candymans that are created out of these atrocities that happen in these communities. But he stumbles upon that kid from the beginning of the movie, William Burke. And him in the modern day, this guy's a very pivotal character in the movie, and Coleman Domingo completely slayed this role. And I didn't really even mention him because he definitely factors into a lot of the spoiler stuff. But he's pretty much the harbinger of doom of this movie. But I can't foot stomp enough. The guy that played him, I really loved his performance. You know, he really locked into the creepiness that you can get out of a harbinger of doom. He was kind of like that fireside storyteller that creeps you out as he's telling the story. That's the way this guy was. And he was that kid at the beginning that was kind of creeped out by everything that happened with Sherman. So Anthony's girlfriend, Brianna, she organizes these art exhibits, and Anthony happens to be an artist. And he's telling her about the legend of the Candyman, and this is where the story really starts kicking in because he says Candyman 5 times. You know, they're just being playful with each other. And when he says it, then all of a sudden he starts seeing the Candyman's reflection. It's very similar to what happened in A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, where Freddy was toying with Jesse and, you know, kill for me, Jesse. The Candyman not really telling Anthony to kill for him, but, you know, he doesn't kill Anthony. He uses Anthony as kind of a conduit. And after he does that, when Anthony goes back to Cabrini Green, he gets bitten by this bee, and that's where he starts doing his transformation. This is where you would kind of compare it to like The Fly. You know, and David Cronenberg, I was getting some Cronenberg vibes from just the violence. But how the Candyman starts getting out and killing other victims is because Anthony's art, you know, his work is getting stale. And once he finds Candyman, he finds influence, and his work starts flourishing and basing his work around Candyman. So he gets this exhibit where all his art is based off of Candyman. And he even has this mirror that you open up, and then you can see like this other world inside the mirror. But the mirror's there, and these viewers come up, and of course they say Candyman 5 times. You know, they're kind of intoxicated by it. And this is how Candyman starts killing his victims. And the Sherman, I guess, version of Candyman. And this is a good place to talk about the violence in this movie and the genius of Nia DaCosta and how she approached it. Not really going head on with it, but, you know, just playing around with different options in ways to show how people are killed in the movie. You have the scene where the girl's throat is slit. She's got the Joy Division shirt on, which I was getting giddy about that because Joy Division is like one of my favorite freaking bands. And she's even like throwing out song titles that only diehard Joy Division fans would understand. Like, I'm in the theater, and I'm not gonna lie, like, I was getting giddy and nobody was picking up on all the Joy Division Easter eggs that were being dropped in that scene. Now, I'm not gonna lie, there were a lot of like urban folk in the theater watching this movie, you know, which I love watching horror movies with all audiences, but especially black people, because they really get into it. And when you watch a horror movie, you just want to feel that like exhilaration around you. And boy, was this a great screening. Like, everybody was freaking out and loving the movie. But my urban audience out there, check out some Joy Division, okay? I'm not gonna steer you wrong. So as the story goes along, Anthony, his body starts transforming into, I don't know at this point. You don't know what's happening to him. Is he going to die? Does he have some kind of disease or some kind of virus? At this point, I wasn't picking up on what was going on. But there's a section in the movie where he goes and visits his mother. And this is where a lot of viewers that aren't that familiar with the original would find out that, you know, his mother is actually a character from the original movie who was good friends with Helen, played by the very lovely Virginia Madsen. And Virginia Madsen actually does some narration work throughout this movie as her character, which was a nice touch. And, you know, this movie really digs back to the original, honors the original so much. And that's one thing that a lot of people were worried about was, is this movie going to alienate the original and the rules of the original and kind of dishonor it? No, I think it did the opposite of that, actually. And it was nice to actually have multiple characters from the original return in some fashion. And Anthony's mother, and that scene's great because even him saying Candyman one time, she's like, no, don't say, and I like how she goes, no, 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 no. Don't you dare say that. So anyway, going to the last act of the movie, getting to the part where you guys are wanting to hear about, even though you've probably seen the movie, but man, this final act was amazing. The cops are onto these murders, and Anthony is the one with the finger pointed at him for them, of course, and Brianna's with him. And so he's already literally disintegrating in front of our eyes. His body is turning into like a creature by this point. So the cops literally kill Anthony and they arrest Brianna. And the scene in the back of the car was so damn awesome because she's sitting back there and she looks in the mirror and she says Candyman 5 times. And I got chill bumps during this scene. I was like, oh my God, he's going to turn into Candyman. That's what this whole thing was. Sherman was turning Anthony into Candyman all along. He wanted Anthony to be the new Candyman and to keep the story alive. But who does Anthony turn into at the very end of the movie? He turns into Tony fucking Todd. And the audience started roaring and cheering, and it was just such a cool freaking moment. And that's all I needed. I didn't need Tony Todd to be the Candyman throughout this movie, just because of how well it was directed, how the story was so interesting. If it's just fan service, then of course you just want Tony Todd all the way. You got to give us something, right? But no, the story was so good, so well directed that Tony Todd was just icing on the cake by the end of the movie when he appears. And I guess sets us up for a sequel if we want one. But man, such a cool ending. Now let's talk about wokeness and how people are trying to say that this story, and by the way, just every movie, I don't even care if the movie's the farthest thing from woke possible. I guarantee you I'm going to get a comment of somebody saying it's woke. Do I think there's woke comment out there? Yes, Black Christmas 2019 exists for sure. And what I mean by that is when the agenda gets in the way of the actual story, then you're running into trouble and you're not focusing on what's important. Candyman, if we think back to the original Candyman and the character Daniel Robitel, and this was a character that was brutally murdered by slave owners. I think I'll have to go back and watch Candyman, but I think it was slave owners. There was no question that it was racism. That's just what it was. That's part of the world of Candyman. Candyman's all about oppression and even racism. And that causes this legend to be created. So at the end of the movie, and I had a feeling this was going to happen, when it's white cops killing these black characters, I just knew that this was going to happen. People were going to jump to conclusions, but what the story is saying is that this stuff still exists. Even centuries later, we can't get away from it. It sucks. But does that mean that all cops are bad cops? Absolutely not. Does that mean that all plumbers are bad plumbers? Absolutely not. Pick your profession. There are going to be scumbags in every profession. Is it out of the realm of possibility that inner cities could have bad cops? Absolutely. Absolutely it could. These themes are part of the world of Candyman, for sure. I have so many friends that are in law enforcement, and I appreciate law enforcement every day, for what they do for our country. I think they're very important. They keep us safe. In the military, we have MPs. They're extremely important. But if you open your mind when you watch this movie or any movie and try to just push the word woke away from your vocabulary for a little bit, you might find that you're wrong. If you're looking for woke content, you could probably find it in anything in your own delusional mind. But that doesn't mean it's there. And it's definitely not there in Candyman because it fits into the world. Could you have a scenario at the end of this movie in, say, the Halloween franchise? No, that would be too far. There would be no point in that to bring this racial scenario into a Halloween movie. Then you start going into woke territory. But when it fits into the world of the story that you're telling, then it makes complete sense. So, open mind, people, open mind. And you know what? I'm going to read a comment here from one of my longtime subscribers, Tila. She really made a lot of sense with this comment, so I'm going to read it to you. She says, Drumdums, I see in the comments those have an issue with the woke racial angle. Hang with me on the book I'm about to write. Have you ever seen Blackula? I ask because my family got into a discussion recently about which film they prefer that offers a black male horror icon. Most of us chose Blackula for various reasons. First of all, it's a very dated 70s horror movie and deserves its own updated retelling. But we came away with the following. Both Blackula and Candyman were racially cursed. One hates his curse and desperately attempting to remove it by any means necessary. The other practically basks in the curse but makes no bones about it. They are both extremely dangerous killers. One has cultural pride and attempted to halt the Western slave trade. The other was a slave. One was trying to find his lost love, romantic interest. The other inflicted his curse on the romantic interest. Okay, the race angle in the movie. Although I have yet to see it, perhaps the director was attempting to have Candyman seek redemption and rechannel his curse. It's even strange to me as I'm typing this, but just some thoughts. Great review as always. Tila makes a great point, and she proves my point about this movie. Yeah, she hasn't seen the movie, but if you really think about the story, the character of Candyman and what he's all about, you know, and this is a character that was brutally murdered because of an act of racism. It's going to fit into the modern day because guess what, guys? Racism, it still exists, okay? And it definitely exists in Cabrini Green. So anyway, guys, that is my spoiler review for Candyman 2021. Let me know down in the comments your thoughts on this movie. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks where we talk horror all day and every day on Fridays. We do Free for Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on all my socials. Support me on Patreon. Buy me a coffee. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.